No one expected it, a handful of rebellious colonies, clinging to the edges of a vast and indifferent continent, a land of exiles and dreamers, of wooden ships and fragile hopes, would one day command the skies, the seas, and the silent void of space itself. Subscribe for more stories that linger in your mind. The birth of the United States was a paradox. It began with a rejection of empire, yet carried within it the seed of one. The Revolution of 1776 was a declaration of independence, but also an invitation to destiny. Those who fought under its banner believed they were creating something new, untainted by the corruption of kings. But in freeing themselves from empire, they unknowingly inherited its hunger, the hunger to grow, to secure, to dominate. When the smoke of war cleared, the young republic looked small, fragile, surrounded by old powers that saw it as a temporary flicker in history. But the flame did not fade. It spread. Each generation pushed its frontier further west, believing the wilderness itself was a test of divine purpose. Manifest destiny, three words that turned geography into theology. It wasn't enough to survive. America had to expand, to fulfill what it called its sacred mission. The wars against native nations, the conquest of Mexico, the relentless westward march, all wrapped in the language of progress. The frontier became America's first battlefield, and its mythology. Heroes wore dust and carried rifles. The railroad was the spear, the telegraph its nervous system, the dollar its bloodstream. In the 19th century, war became industry and industry became faith. The Civil War, fought between brothers, consumed more lives than any conflict the nation had ever known. Yet, from the ashes of that self-inflicted wound, the United States discovered something terrifying and profound. War could be mechanized. Steam engines moved armies, factories built death on an assembly line. The North's victory was not only political, it was technological. The same forges that made cannon barrels soon made locomotives and bridges. America learned to mass-produce power itself. When the war ended, the country turned outward. It built a steel navy and gazed across the Pacific. The Spanish-American War of 1898 was short, almost theatrical, but it announced something irreversible. The Republic had become an empire. The American flag now flew over islands thousands of miles away, Cuba, the Philippines, Guam, Hawaii. It wasn't just geography that expanded, it was imagination. For the first time, Americans began to believe that their destiny wasn't continental, it was planetary. Then came the Great War. Europe was dying in its trenches. And America, at first reluctant, distant, entered late, but decisively. When its soldiers crossed the Atlantic, they brought not just weapons but modernity. Factories in Detroit and Pittsburgh roared to life. Steel, oil, and innovation fed the front lines. And when the war ended, the United States emerged as the only major power untouched by ruin. The age of American industry had begun. The 1920s glittered with confidence, skyscrapers, radios, automobiles, jazz. But beneath the rhythm of progress lurked fragility. The Great Depression revealed how easily prosperity could collapse. Out of that despair rose a new breed of leaders. Engineers, generals, men who saw technology as salvation and preparation for whatever would come next. That next arrived in 1939. World War II was more than a conflict. It was a crucible that remade the world. In 4 years, America mobilized 16 million soldiers, built 300.000 aircraft, 88.000 tanks, and countless ships. The numbers themselves became mythic. The assembly line became the nation's backbone. Women worked the factories. Scientists built the unimaginable, and propaganda turned sacrifice into virtue. When the atomic bomb fell on Hiroshima, it marked the end of one war and the beginning of another. The glow of that explosion wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. Humanity had crossed a threshold, and the key was in American hands. The United States had become the first civilization capable of ending all others. The Cold War transformed that power into ideology. Every missile, every film, every advertisement became a weapon in a global duel of belief. The Soviet Union built walls of concrete. America built walls of culture, Coca-Cola, Hollywood, jazz, and television. The image of freedom became its most effective export. Yet behind the glamour, the military-industrial complex grew roots too deep to remove. Factories built for war couldn't stop producing. Scientists who invented radar now built rockets. The Pentagon became not just a building but a philosophy, a permanent readiness. America could never truly disarm, because its prosperity had become entwined with its preparation for war. Every conflict became a mirror. Korea tested its will. Vietnam fractured its conscience. The world watched as the Empire of Liberty questioned its own reflection. Images of helicopters leaving Saigon haunted a generation, not because they showed defeat, but because they showed vulnerability. Still, the machine evolved, from Cold War deterrence to digital dominance, from F-16s to stealth bombers, from the moon landing to satellites. America's greatest weapon became not destruction, but innovation. The space race, born from fear, ended in awe. Humanity looked up and saw the stars, and America's flag among them. Then, in 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union collapsed. For the first time in modern history, one empire stood alone. No rival, no balance, no restraint. The 1990s became an age of triumphalism, the end of history. As some called it, the Internet, a child of Pentagon research, spread across the globe, carrying American culture into every home, every pocket, every mind. Hollywood became mythology, the dollar became scripture. But history does not end. It circles. The 21st century began with fire. The towers fell, and the empire awoke to fear. Once again, war returned, not against nations, but against shadows. Afghanistan, Iraq, endless deserts, endless justifications. Technology advanced, but certainty faded. Drones replaced soldiers, and war became remote, a spectacle on screens. The battlefield had gone digital. Inside America, new divisions rose, not of states, but of identity, belief, and truth. The old enemy was gone, replaced by something amorphous: disinformation, polarization, exhaustion. The arsenal of democracy had turned inward, questioning itself. And yet, the machinery of power endures. Across oceans, aircraft carriers drift like moving cities. In orbit, satellites observe everything, the unseen eyes of empire. The budget for defense surpasses the next 10 nations combined. Power remains vast, but fragile, like glass under immense pressure. The paradox of the American empire is this: it was built to defend freedom, but depends upon conflict to survive. It wages war in the name of peace, and exports ideals through instruments of control. Its reach is infinite, but its unity is not. Still, the story is not yet over. Every empire writes its own myth, until history writes the ending. For now, America remains both the dream and the warning of our age, a civilization of engineers and artists, soldiers and visionaries, whose greatest strength is the same thing that may one day undo it, its faith in power itself. And so the question lingers, quietly, like the echo of distant thunder, when the machines fall silent, and the empire finally looks inward. Will it remember that it was built not to conquer the world, but to prove that liberty could endure within it? If this story moved you, leave a like and subscribe for what comes next.